All right, welcome to the Fourth and Long podcast, episode one, with me, your host Justin, and I'm here with my buddy Jacob. What's going on, man?
What's up? How you doing, Justin?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm just, I'm ready for some football this weekend after what's happening in the NFL and everything like that. It's just, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but it's just crazy. It hasn't hit um, college football the way it hits the NFL. But like we were talking about beforehand, it's more of a it was Eli Drinkwitz, the new coach in Missouri, who said it was a like kind of a free for all. So though that's definitely not safe, but whatever.
No.
But so yeah, we have a lot of things to get into. Like we said, I believe last time, we're gonna end up splitting this into two different podcasts. We'll going live every Tuesday night and Friday night. Hopefully, maybe sometimes do a Saturday morning if we have to. But and next Tuesday we have a guest. Jake, you want to talk about him real quick?
Yeah, one of my good childhood friend buddies is gonna be joining us for a podcast. He is a safety for Memphis, and with their whole situation going on there, he's gonna kind of join us and talk about his experience being there and just playing at a D1 level during these crazy times and what kind of precautions they're putting players through. Maybe get some little insight on what's going on from a player's
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah, it's gonna be huge. I mean, because I think a lot of us sit here that like college football, and we're just like don't really think about how much it's affecting those guys that are playing if they're getting sick, and it's gonna be awesome to just like kind of get his perspective, like how it was last spring for him, how was the summer, and then like Memphis is playing, so that's good. But I mean, like I said, yeah, it's just gonna be good to have him on. You have his name, right? Obviously, he's a childhood.
Yeah, yeah, hey, yeah, I do.
All right, but so let's get into it real quick. We're going to do 5 things in 50 seconds just to go over some notes that I happened in college football this week, and we'll talk about it afterwards a little bit. Okay, so today Baylor shut down all like football activities because of COVID. So I don't really know what's going on there, but it's based on COVID, so that can never be good. ESPN 300 number one recruit Jack Sawyer. This happened a little bit ago. I just found out about it though. He skipped his senior season in Pickerington. It's a place in Ohio, a big school. He skipped his senior season to get ready for Ohio State, and which is something that I'm sure we'll talk about basically every week because you never know when some of these recruits just be like, "Hey, I'm done with this. Like, I need to get to the NFL and make money." Speaking of more recruiting, the 2020, I know I released an article earlier this week at the top 10 players in ESPN 2021 class, and right now Alabama and Ohio State are neck and neck at number one for the recruiting class they have. Alabama's coming on strong late. They just got a commitment from uh, J.C. Latham, a left tackle out of, I believe IMG. I mean, everyone comes out of IMG.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's IMG. It's like a prep school for all these kids.
Yeah. Speaking of that, let's go to the IAI. I talked to Randy, and I was like, "Hey, do you think it'd be a good idea to do like a whole feature on IMG?" And so he said he loves the idea, and I said I'll try and get in touch with him. I emailed the school yesterday. They didn't email me back. They don't care about me. But whatever. All right, two more. We got Kansas Jayhawks coach. The great Les Miles tested positive for COVID earlier this week, and I mean, Kansas just stopped playing football. I mean, there's no Kansas should just be one of those teams that just plays basketball. And then the last one I have here, and then Jake, give me some of your, what your feedback is. And the SEC, we talked about this before as well. The SEC this week warned of bans and fines for COVID-19 violations, which goes back to what we brought up last week about Missouri's new coach, Eli Drinkwitz. He basically said it's a free for all. So that's not safe and that's not good. But any feedback on the news there, Jake?
Yeah, I have to say, I think the biggest news that happened a couple days ago or yesterday actually was the Baylor. I think a lot more schools. And I think the SEC kind of saw this and was like, well, we need to do something about it. I mean, with the NFL having problems with all their teams having to reschedule all these games, those are high-priced athletes that are around to free and kind of roam. These college kids are, it's college. They're supposed to be the 4 best years of your life. So, they're probably finding ways to do stuff and try to go around, kind of have some fun.
Yeah, and
But
I know. Go ahead. But
um,
I'll say this real quick. I know that I don't even know if a lot of schools, like regular students, are even taking classes like there. I know Kent around me, a lot of them are just doing it online. So I don't know, but yeah, go on.
But I think the SEC is taking the right steps to hold these teams accountable. I mean, that quote last week was kind of big news. It's a free for all. Who's reporting what? What are they reporting? I mean, Memphis, if they're reporting right, that's kind of a big deal, and we'll get that view next week from my source. But these teams need to be held accountable. It can't just be a free for all. These are kids' future that need to be accounted for and kind of be held responsible. They're supposed to be adults. If they're going out partying when they should be, quarantining because of football, and that's really what they're doing right now between online classes and practicing. It needs to be punishment needs to be set, and a precedent needs to be set to hold these adults accountable.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind. I mean, Jacob, I know you're 21, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a little bit older. I'm 28, but I mean, we have to look back on a lot of these guys are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that, yeah, they love football, they want to play football, but they also want to have a fun college experience. So they get to play football, but you don't get to do anything else pretty much. Like I'm surprised a lot of schools haven't just started like lockdowns basically for their football players. If I was a D1 basketball coach or D2 basketball coach, I would be like, yo, team, we're getting a big house, we're going to rent it. Everyone's staying here together.
Mhm.
And if someone gets it, we're all screwed. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it like you said, COVID's hit the NFL pretty bad, and that's all money wise for. I mean, that's killing them. It's not as bad as in college, but I think that has to go back with. I can definitely see some college coaches that were kind of slide some things under the rug and not really, especially if it's like an important playmaker. Like I just keep waiting for the day that I pull up ESPN or something like that, and I see like Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence got COVID, I think the whole NCAA football would just shut down just because they love him so much.
Well, exactly, and it's like those big name players that most people watch. I think a great situation of that is with Miami right now, and they're De'Aaron King, who's becoming an emergent tar, and Quincy Roche, who's supposed to be a top touted edge rusher for the NFL this upcoming draft. If those players go down for a school like that, it's kind of hard to see them having a good season or even anyone really wanting to watch them. It's like your top 2 players are out. What else do you have to offer? You really don't. So, and it's tough for those teams to pull and really put up a competitive front versus these hard schedules that are coming up.
Yeah, and I always forget what I'm going to say, but it's just you remember a couple years ago when when the college teams first started, their stars would sit out and just say, "I'm not playing in the bowl game" because they didn't want to get hurt. I mean, we don't know when a vaccine for COVID is coming. I mean, let's be real, no one knows, or if it's coming even. I don't know. But some players, maybe like if I was a number 1 recruit in high school, like the Jack Sawyer, who, oh, by the way, is committed to Ohio State. I mean, he went to school in Ohio, so he's going to Ohio State. But when are these kids going to be like, it's just not worth it. I need to make money for my family, and I just need to get to the NFL, and until they maybe start paying players. I mean, for them, it's just sadly, I think for a lot of college athletes, and especially football and basketball and even baseball, college for them is just a means to an end. It's just a means to end up making money in a career. So it's kind of what the other kids do, learning, but you know what I mean. Anything else you got there, Jake? But if not, I'm gonna head into last week, which was crazy. But you got
Yeah.
anything else?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, these kids are really just, some of them are one and done. Some of them are, will take, or they're in their second or third year and are primed to go in a draft this upcoming draft class. But again, it's a means to an end with college players, not being paid yet. I don't really see them sticking up. I mean, if once this, and we kind of talked about this last week with, California passing that new bill to start paying college athletes based on their name rights starting this upcoming year. It's going to be interesting to see how players really, how the effect it's going to have on players, wanting to sit out of bowl games versus, actually playing because they have money, kind of like a horse in the game at that point.
Yeah, it's definitely this has really opened some people's eyes, I think. But like I said, I'm sure we'll down the road, like maybe in the off season, or maybe when I'm doing basketball, and then college basketball is boring. You want to hop on and talk about some stuff. Like I know that we're gonna have big conversation about paying players and guys sitting out and things like that. But yeah, it's opened people's eyes, and we'll see what happens. But now we're gonna go back to some real football, and like I said, usually this will be on Tuesday night. We'll like recap last week, but we're just starting out with one because me and Jake wanted to get on the horn today. And last weekend, boy,
Crazy
uh,
week,
it
absolute
was,
crazy week.
it was, and then I mean, what is wrong with Texas and Oklahoma? They're both terrible. You got me. Can you hear me? Okay, well, I'll keep going. You got me yet?
No, yeah, I got you now. I got you now. I was
All
I
right,
was waiting
all
to see
right.
if you come back in. So, you were saying, sorry,
Tech.
could you repeat what you
Yeah,
were
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was just. I mean, we have the Red River Shootout this week, which we'll also talk about. But I
Hmm.
mean, last weekend. I mean, I've always said this about Oklahoma. I mean, they're all offense, no defense, and they will be good in the Big 12, but they're never. I mean, you've seen it when they make the playoffs, other than when the year that
Yeah.
Baker was the quarterback. I mean, they just flake out, and I mean, they got. I mean, Iowa State isn't necessarily a tough place to play for Oklahoma, but I know they're well coached, and their coach Matt Campbell is on a lot of NFL teams' minds this offseason and last offseason too. So, I just don't like Oklahoma. And Spencer Rattler, he's not bad, but he's more of a Jalen Hurts than a Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. So,
I think I think I think you're exactly right, but I think he also needs time to develop. I think he can become one of those players. I mean, in high school, he just dominated the competition, was constantly throwing up for over 400 yards per game, and he didn't always have the strongest competition, but he does have those little moments. But he's a true freshman. Like you can't. He needs time to grow. He's not one of those players that can.
he's a redshirt freshman, I think.
Okay, redshirt
Yeah,
freshman.
he's a redshirt. I think he redshirted last year because he was gonna play last year, but then Hurts transferred over, and so it kind of
Right,
took
right.
him out.
Hurts was the transfer last year.
Yeah. So I
But
mean,
again, I still think he needs that little bit of room to grow.
yeah, and he will for one more year, and then he'll try and go pro. But I mean, whatever. I mean, Lincoln Riley. It would not surprise me one bit if he is done at Oklahoma and just heads to the NFL. Like I, I like him. He seems like a nice guy,
Yeah.
but I mean, he even hired Alex Grinch to rework the defense, but it just isn't going well for Oklahoma. And on the other side of the Red River Shootout, or I guess you have to call it Showdown now, because I don't
Yeah,
know, but I'll never
the
call it
technical
that.
term.
Yeah, I'll never call it that. But I mean, Texas, like I wrote in my preview for the Big 12, I wrote that I just wanted to come up with some randomness, and I was like, I think the coach of the year and the most surprising team might be TCU. Gary Patterson's a good coach. They always have a decent defense, and they run that air raid now. But last week, Texas versus TCU wasn't really about TCU winning. It was about Texas just not being able to finish. And I know you saw, I mean, that fumble on the 1 yard line. What is that guy doing?
I really don't know. I couldn't. I couldn't. I'm not a running back. I played offensive line, so I don't know what's going through that mind.
Like, I don't even know like, if he held out and hung on to it. I don't even still think he was in. So, just, I mean, another coach there, Tom Herman. I mean, he's done a decent job. He did better than Charlie Strong before him. He's certainly no Mac Brown. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Herman's done there after this year. I mean,
Right.
Texas it's such big football state that I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, there's plenty of other coaches. Some of these high school coaches could step up. I mean, you got some of those dynasties in there that, no one
yeah,
really outside of the state knows about. And it's like they've been coaching for, 40, 50 years and led their team to multiple undefeated seasons, multiple state championships. It's just I feel like you're right. I feel like he's on the hot seat this year. And if they keep I mean, they have a good matchup this week, and I think it's really going to show.
yeah, I do too, and we'll talk about that in the preview. But in at Texas too. I mean, Texas is Texas. It's number one state for football in all the country. How can
Yeah.
you not recruit your own state? But yeah, I mean, even I honestly look at Texas high school football, and I honestly think it's kind of like the NFL and kind of like college. Like I
It's a
think
mix of both.
yeah,
You
I
have
mean
so much talent. You have so much talent on those teams, and it's crazy. And I'm in California, and I've seen some high school California teams. St. John Bosco, Mater Dei, De La Salle back in the day,
Taylor
and
Sal, yeah,
it's crazy. The competition is just it's good for those couple teams, but not all the teams like Texas has that talent. You just
yeah,
have these couple teams here and there. It's not every single team like in Texas.
yeah. But I mean, I think I don't know why I was looking it up. Maybe I stumbled upon it, but I looked at like the most expensive high school stadiums in the country. I mean, the top five are all in
Oh,
Texas.
yeah.
Dude,
I
there,
mean, what was it? Is it Allen High School? Allen
it's,
High School is had a $70 million stadium.
I
It
thought
looks
it
like
was
a
80.
stadium. It's like
I
70,000 people
yeah,
for a high school game.
and then
It's
I
just crazy.
yeah, and I remember Katy is another big name around there, and they
Mhm.
built like a $50 million stadium. It's just like that's why I don't view those
Mhm.
kids as. I mean, they're college kids basically. But whatever. I mean, we'll move on from that. But obviously, we'll get back into it because, like I
Right.
said, that's how it's going this week. But in talking to you, I can tell you really like Florida, and obviously they played South Carolina last weekend, and I
Mhm.
went to South Carolina for 1 year, just one, and they stuck with them for about a quarter and a half, and then Kyle Trask just, I mean, that offense is rolling. I mean, go ahead and speak what you want to say about it, but yeah, that offense is rolling. The two Kyles right now, I mean, it's crazy what they've been able to do. Granted, they've played Ole Miss, who's terrible at defense, and then South Carolina, who's like a middle of the pack team, or even like a bottom dweller these days with Will Muschamp. God, Will Muschamp needs to go so bad, but yeah, I mean, Florida's good. I think their defense is gonna maybe cause a couple problems for them later in the year, but I mean, if they keep throwing the ball like they do, I mean, with the athletes that they have, I, it's going to be tough to beat them.
I think you're completely right. I mean, I think it kind of shows that the trend of their offense, Florida's offense, starting slow is what really hurts them. But again, they're strong finishers. I mean, they were wasn't it? I believe it was tied going in the halftime, or they were within like three, and Florida just pulled away in the second half. I mean, you could really tell they stepped it into that high gear. They really remind me of a team like Kansas City, the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL, that they might start off slow, but you can't hold you can hold them for only such an amount of time that they'll find a way and just snap like that, and you don't really have a chance to catch them.
No, no, and I mean, Kyle Pitts is. We've talked about him. He's really a wide receiver, but he's listed at tight end. Just
Yeah,
cancel the Mackey Award now, which goes to the nation's top tight end. He already won it. I mean, he's got
yeah. Well,
Trask has 10 touchdowns, and because Florida's only played twice, Trask
mhm,
has 10 touchdowns and Pitts has 6. That's
mhm.
crazy.
For a tight end, especially in college football, where we don't really see a lot of tight ends coming in. We see a lot of blocking tight ends, not receiving tight ends. And again, I think once he goes to the NFL, they'll convert him to a wide receiver and use him like a Julio Jones or something because of his size and because of his speed. He's still a decent blocking tight end, but again, if you watch the game, they did a whole 10-minute segment talking about him and saying he really was angry after last year, and he wasn't even considered for the award because he didn't have his hand in the ground enough. And he really stepped up this offseason to really bulk up and become that tight end. But he still has the speed like he's a wide receiver. It's just a crazy combination of athleticism and pure gifted talent.
Yeah, and to me, it's not even the speed. I think it was the first week they played when they threw him that long ball, and I think a safety tried to tackle him. He just took his arm and threw him to the ground. It's
Yeah.
like, so if he gets the ball in open space, he may not be the fastest, but I mean, yeah, he reminds me. He's not as big as a Travis Kelce, or he reminds me of like an Evan Ingram or something like that from Ole Miss, or I don't even know who he plays for now. He seems like he's hurt every year, but he seems like that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it when it comes. But is Florida and Georgia are both undefeated when they play? I mean, that's going to be. I mean,
that's going to be a great game. I think that honestly could be game of the year, even over a national championship game.
Yeah. So, back into the SEC, we Alabama. I mean, I think we all called it last week. I mean, they rolled Texas A&M.
Yeah.
I think the Jimbo Fisher era in College Station is done. They gave him like a $90 million contract. I mean, that's got to be over. And I mean, Alabama won 52-24, and it's just even sickening to look at Alabama because they're full of stars. And Mac Jones is a Nick Saban quarterback. Don't lose him the game. Let the defense win. Use the run game and then hit him over the top of play action. I mean, Mac Jones could. I'm saying that name right? It's Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Right? I thought so.
I believe you're saying that name.
Well, then we're both wrong if it's wrong. But he's gonna play him. He's gonna play himself into the Heisman candidacy just because he's a quarterback for Alabama and he doesn't throw interceptions. So I mean, they rolled, and Kellen Mond, I'm just sick of hearing his name. Like every year, it's like, oh, Kellen Mond is gonna. This is his year. He's finally matured. He's gonna do it. And every year, it's just like, oh my god.
I mean, you look at the stats. Kellen Mond was 25 of 44 for 318 and only threw 3 touchdowns. They threw 44 times. Mac Jones threw 20 of 27 for 435, 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. That on 20 completions, he threw for 435 yards.
Yeah,
I mean, that just tells you he'll already be considered in for that spot as a Heisman, which is crazy because he really isn't that, that great of a thing.
It would be crazy if by some long shot Mac Jones ends up winning the Heisman Trophy while Tua Tagovailoa or whatever his name is never won one. It's like all you used to hear about Tua after the national championship performance was like, oh, he's going to win it as a sophomore. Now he's going to win it as a junior. And he just never won it. So, yeah, I mean, and you got to think about that.
Yeah, exactly.
That yardage he's throwing for, I mean, they lost Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs to the NFL. And they're still, I mean, they got Devonta something, and I can't think of the other guy's name. But, I mean, they have 2. I mean, Najee Harris is like a grown man.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we could talk about Alabama all day, but I think Alabama plays Georgia or Florida this year. I'm not sure they play both, but I just don't see anyone in the West really being able to compete with Alabama. I mean, I guess you could have said Texas A&M, not LSU this year, but I mean, the East it's looking like Georgia and Florida. Yeah. So, you got anything else on that? If not, I'll move to the next game.
I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I think going back to your wide receiver comment, I mean, last year they were touted as the best wide receiving core of all time. With even with the loss, they still had 3 wide receivers that were touted as having the best receiver class of all time. So I think that really speaks to the depth that Alabama recruits for, and I think goes back to our news earlier in the show that they have one of the top recruiting classes pretty much every year. I don't think they've been out of the top 5 in like the last 15 years. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's I mean, Nick Saban's gonna Nick Saban. and they play Ole Miss this weekend. I kind of put it on my like best bets. I'll get to it later, but I mean, Ole Miss actually their offense can do something. Their defense is atrocious. I mean, that game I wouldn't be surprised if the total was like 90 or 100 points
I
and
think it's
seven.
gonna, I think it's going to be that. I think
Yeah,
it's going to be in the 90s because it's going to be like last year's OU versus Texas game, just no defense and just all offense.
yeah, it's crazy. Now headed back to still in the SEC. Nothing really big, but LSU took out Vanderbilt last weekend, 41-7. Got back on the right path. They'll be a top 25 team all year, but they definitely. I mean, they had their 1 year and that's it. I mean, they'll be top 25 just because they're LSU and they're always going to have athletes. But yeah, so no, I was talking
You
about
talked about UCF, right?
LSU. Yeah, my bad.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry, you cut out there for me, so I didn't know
Yeah.
if you were on LSU or UCF. I heard law. I heard had that one
Oh,
year, and
that'll
I'm like,
come back.
wait,
I
is he
just no.
talking about
You'll
UCF?
know if I'm talking about UCF because I'll be pissed. I get angry. I get angry at UCF. I mean,
Right.
unless you got something to add on LSU, like
No, I mean LSU is always going to be good, and they'll always be in conversation. But I mean, we called it last week. They were going to run over Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt's not really, they're a subpar team. LSU is always top tier, so I
it,
can't
it,
really add anything to that.
it really sucks that Vanderbilt's so bad at football because I mean Vanderbilt's right in the middle of Nashville. They play in a cool stadium. I mean, who do you think the best player to come out of Vanderbilt is? I mean, it's got to be Jay Cutler, right?
I hate to say it. I can't. I don't know. I couldn't even name Jay Cutler. I can't remember a good Vanderbilt player that came out. I mean, I really, I can't. You can't name like one of those key players that came out of Vanderbilt.
I know, and I'm looking up the coach right now. Oh yeah, Derek Mason's there. Derek Mason, ex NFL player, but yeah, he's been there for like 3 or 4 years. I guess he's just fine with mediocrity. Whatever, some people are. That's fine.
Yeah.
And now we will go into. Oh, go ahead. You got something to say?
No, I wasn't gonna say anything.
Now
No.
we will head into UCF losing. They lost to Tulsa, I believe, and good. Just get them out of my way. After their 1 year where they were like they raised the banner and like had a parade, I'm done with them. I mean, UCF is a good story. Like if we had the old bowl system back where they could get into a bowl or New Year's Day bowl, but I mean they can still do that now in New Year's Day bowl. But it's like Boise State is the only team that I ever thought wasn't in a big conference, but could beat some good teams back like when Kellen Moore was there, back when they did all those trick plays. But yeah, UCF going down. I'm happy. Just shut up. I just shut up talking. I don't like them. You got anything?
Oh, sorry, you keep cutting in and out, and I'm getting little bits and pieces, so I'm trying to follow along.
Okay, yeah. Just go. You go ahead on UCF.
I think what my co-host was talking about. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't. UCF's team really struggled last week. They couldn't really get anything going, and they fell to Tulsa, who's not really a good team. I just don't think this UCF team is all that's touted out to be. I mean, a couple years ago you could have said it, but this year, I just don't think it's it. I think there was way too much hype around them.
I will say one player at UCF I did like was their quarterback, who basically almost died by breaking his knee. Mackenzie Milton, I think it was, in one of the bowl games. He like dove into the end zone, and it was the most disgusting thing since Willis McGahee in 2002. But yeah, I mean,
I think
like I said,
I think I know what play you're talking about.
yeah, his name's like Mackenzie Milton. He was like the skinny. Yeah, but and then I put this in there. I don't really hate Memphis at all, but I was very angry last week that the game that should have gone way over didn't even come close to going over. I was just like, but it was a good game. I mean, SMU won on kicked like a 47-yard field goal to win 30-27, and Um, yeah, SMU's your only 4-0 team in the country, so I mean, props to them. Hopefully, they'll get ranked some point, but I mean, they played nobody, so yeah. One thing
Yeah,
I think,
they were ranked 18 going into that, weren't they? I believe.
yeah, maybe. I don't know, but I was just thinking about this. I didn't put it on the outline, but did you watch any of the North Dakota State game last weekend?
No, I did not.
I caught the highlights, man. I mean, he's good. The kid Trey Lance is good. I just don't see it though. I don't see why people are all over him about it. Like
Mhm.
he seems like a running guy. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, it was weird that they only played one game and now he's like opting out. It's just weird. That's weird. I don't understand it. And whatever, he'll go top 10
Mhm.
just as long as the Browns don't take him. Whatever. So.
No.
So yeah, we'll move on to the ACC, which is a conference I usually don't like because they play nobodies. But this week is obviously different, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, Clemson last week. I think they played Virginia. I mean, they rolled. I mean,
Yeah, they were going the role.
I mean, I think Lawrence has 7 touchdowns on the year with like 848 yards in 3 games. And speaking of your boy, De'Aaron King or whatever has numbers that are, I think, overall a little better than Lawrence's because De'Aaron King can run the ball. But yeah, Clemson rolled, and we'll talk about their game this weekend.
I think the biggest struggle for Clemson there was their defense. I mean, I can't believe they allowed 23 points to a Virginia team that's not really, they're not. There's Clemson's defense is always really good and always able to hold those weaker teams. I'm just surprised they allowed 23 points. I think that's the
Yeah,
biggest concern coming out of that week. Their offense is firing on all cylinders. Um, I just think they really need to that defense needs to show up this week and really hold their own against the Miami team that everyone's saying could upset Clemson this week.
yeah, we'll get into that. And then my final statement, or the final thing I had is I guess it might be time to take Georgia seriously. I don't know.
I think their defense is really going to carry them this year.
So good.
Their defense is always really good. I think this could be one of their best years in recent memory. And I think it really showed by holding Auburn to 6 points, which many have as like one of those bridge teams to make the college football playoffs this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all three of us, maybe Hans didn't pick Auburn, but I know I picked Auburn. I think that game versus Georgia, Auburn, that was more about Auburn being bad than Georgia being good. I mean, Bo
Mhm.
Nix looked like he took 75 steps backward from, I mean, the beginning of the
Yeah.
season. And I'm still not ready to take Georgia completely seriously because I know they're going to have trouble with Florida. Also, they have a question mark at the quarterback position. They got the transfer from USC, JT Daniels. I don't. He's been cleared, like you said, right?
Yeah, he was cleared.
Last week.
Um, he was cleared last week. I think they took him that week as like a teaching week for him and just was kind of like, okay, let's see how we do against Auburn. We know our defense is going to be good. We're going to trust our defense. And I think this week we'll actually see JT Daniels debut, hopefully. Um, I think JT Daniels is going to be a great fit for them. I mean, highly touted recruit out of Mater Dei last year or the year before, and kind of went off there and kind of showed really spouts of being a mobile quarterback, but also having the accuracy of some of those pocket passes we've seen in the past. But I think he's going to be a great fit there in a Georgia system that doesn't really pride itself on having a decent quarterback over the years. I mean, Jake Fromm was really the last. I can't remember another quarterback other than Jake Fromm that was really talked about coming out of Georgia.
Aaron Murray was a little bit talked about, but that was more because he had a hot girlfriend, I think. So I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, we're running a little. That's fine. Like I said, this will be a longer show, and we'll split it into two. But before we head into this week's preview, let's so just after last week, let's go over our Heisman's.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go ahead first. I think me, even though Hans isn't here today, yeah, Hans, you have a real job. Cool, bro. Um, just ditch us, bro. But I think we'll all have somewhat sort of the same top 5 for the most part.
Mhm.
If you want to make it 3, go ahead and make it 3, no big deal. But
Right.
I got Lawrence number 1. I actually did move Kyle Trask up to number 2.
I
Uh,
had that as well. I think
I
after last week, it really showed.
Yeah, and well, I'll talk about this once we both finish our Heisman's, and then I have Justin Fields at 3, De'Aaron King at 4, and then Kyle Pitts at 5. The sad thing for Pitts is he hasn't really no chance to win. I think
Yeah.
just because the guy that's throwing to him is number 2 right now. So
hmm
yeah, so
My top 5 is pretty much similar to yours, except I have Justin Fields at number 5, and I have everyone else moved up one. I just have Justin Fields at 5 because we haven't seen him play yet.
yeah,
We don't know what kind of rust is there. I don't expect a lot of rust, but I haven't seen him played. I just wanted to kind of limit. I included in my top 5, but we haven't seen him play yet, so we don't know what that offense is going to look like over there. Post the Urban Meyer era, we kind of only got like a taste of it those last 2 years, and they've been really good still. But I want to be able to see this kind of third
yeah.
year where it kind of fully takes into effect, and we really see that fire on all cylinders. But I have the same note you had. De'Aaron King needs to have in order to stay in the Heisman, he needs to tear up that Clemson defense. If he tears up that Clemson defense and outperforms the number 1 draft pick this year in Trevor Lawrence, I think it could be his to lose this year.
Oh, I think if Clemson loses one game, I think Lawrence is out of the Heisman race. He hasn't put up great numbers. I think this year so far he's having the worst numbers. They're still great numbers, but he's having the worst numbers yet. And the final thing I'm going to say is, for all the guys that aren't Justin Fields that want the Heisman, you have 2 weeks now, this weekend and next weekend, to put your stamp down and make a mark before you get the Big Ten back in, where you're going to see Fields and then whoever Wisconsin's running back is that they'll run 30 times a game. So
yeah, exactly.
So the people like De'Aaron King and Kyle Trask and Pitts will be the first one to fall off, just because it's a quarterback award now.
Yeah, it's always been a quarterback war, which is really a shame because there's some great players out there. And I really like to see some other players get a chance at it, but it's always going to be a quarterback. Always going to be a quarterback race.
Yeah. Once we get to trivia, I have one question about that too. So that'll be fun. We have a fun trivia coming up, but before we do that, man, let's. I know I posted it in my preview, and like I said to you guys, if you guys want to add anything to the preview, just do it. I don't care. But let's get into the preview for this week. And there's 4 big games, I think. And tell me if you have any other ones or if you think I'm wrong. I still have Florida at Texas A&M as a big game, just because it's at Texas A&M and Texas A&M is still ranked.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Florida is gonna. I think it'll be close for kind of like South Carolina. It'll be close for like a quarter and a half or even a half. But then Florida will score however many points they need to. So,
I'm as you said earlier, I'm a big Florida guy this year. I think that offense is one of the best in the country, behind Clemson, Alabama, and those guys. But I think it's right there. I think it compete with the best of them. I'm just wondering how if Texas A&M bounces back this week and can hold Florida, I still think they can make a push. But I don't think I think their season's pretty much done. But Florida, I think this is going to be a good test for them. Texas A&M coming off of last week, weren't going to win that game against Bama, but if they can, hold another team they can hang with, then and show they can hang with a team like Florida, then they can make a push. But as you said, I think it's going to be close for a quarter and a half, maybe 2 going in the halftime, and then Florida is just going to step that up.
Yeah, and SEC East has always been the weaker of the 2 SEC divisions, but right now it's looking like the stronger one with Georgia and Florida. And so, with that being said, I'm gonna it's not next on my outline, Jacob, but I'm just gonna skip right to it. The Red River Shootout, is this the worst Red River Shootout ever?
I think so. I really think so. As you said, the first time they're meeting outside of the top 20 in 20 years, that blows my mind. that's just crazy. I mean, it's going to be a great matchup. It always is, Oklahoma versus Texas. But I looked at that stat and I'm like, it gave me a double take. I mean, I think it's gonna be the same scoreline as last week. I think it's gonna be a shootout between the offenses.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, if you want to say, I mean, Texas really can lay the knockout punch on Oklahoma by beating them
Oh
this
yeah.
week. By beating them this weekend, because we've seen Oklahoma sneak into the playoffs somehow with one loss almost every year. If they go into tomorrow's game and lose, they'll have two losses already, and people are already. A lot of them have had enough of Oklahoma over the past couple of years that they
Mhm.
got no chance. So I wouldn't be surprised if Texas comes out and beats them pretty bad.
I think Texas will come out and beat them.
Yeah, I
I don't think it's gonna be. It's gonna be a shootout like last year. The last year score was 48-45 was the final
yeah,
score.
I think it was something like that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, Sam Etling in that offense in Texas, I just think is gonna carve up that OU defense. And I think this is where Spencer Rattler's inexperience and is really going to show. I mean, Texas's defense is always sound. They always get bullied, but I think this year they have a chip on their shoulder and will really take this as the game to really stamp their mark on the season and be like, okay, we're going to take everyone's anger at OU and we're gonna hit them
yeah.
in the mouth. We're gonna punch them in the mouth and just kind of give them that knockout punch.
And I think if they do that, I think you see Kyle Pitts fall out of the Heisman race, and you see Sam Ellinger kind of come back up in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's bad this year, but there's always bad blood, and
Mm-hmm.
it's still going to be an interesting game. Oklahoma doesn't want to be fully eliminated. Texas wants to eliminate the rivals, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go on to the next game. A big game. There's two big games in the ACC this week, actually. Obviously, the one tomorrow night on primetime is big, but at noon tomorrow, Virginia Tech and the Hokies travel to North Carolina, who is ranked number 8. And I think that's the highest they've been ranked in like something like 30 or 40 years. I might be wrong. But Mac Brown's done an amazing job of rebuilding that program behind freshman Sam Howell, now a sophomore, but he's had a rough start to the year. I don't really know how
Yeah.
Carolina is undefeated so far. But
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
I think the biggest problem for them was last week's game. You lose 4 points to BC, unranked B. Like you only beat them by 4 points. That's horrific. And you're ranked number 8. I think they're overrated. I don't think UNC. I feel like they should be lower. I mean, you beat BC College by 4 points, and BC is not that great of a team. I just
Yeah.
I'm shocked by that. I thought they were going to go in and handle BC properly, but BC hung with them for most of that game. And that's,
Yeah.
I'm from Massachusetts, growing up watching some of BC college football with Matt Ryan, Luke Kuechly coming out of there, AJ Dillon, who came out last year. It's just that team is not that good this year. Their defense is good, but I thought UNC was going to absolutely tear them up, and I was very, very shocked to see BC stay with them the entire game.
Oh yeah, and I mean we're seeing this right now. I mean, let's be real. Miami's probably a little overrated right now. They're too high at 7, and North Carolina is a little too high at 8. And you also got to think, once the Big Ten comes back, you got to think if the Big Ten was already playing, North Carolina would not be in the top 10. Probably not that.
Oh no,
Maybe
no.
not top 15, and Miami would be just outside the top 10 because
Yeah.
you got Wisconsin, Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State. So, but yeah, I mean, it should be a good game. Grand, this isn't your grandpa's Frank Beamer Virginia Tech that
Right.
focused on special teams and defense. They're giving up 20 or something like 27 and a half a game, so they're not like.
Mm-hmm.
But this would, I think, be Virginia Tech's probably the biggest upset since 2014 when they beat Ohio State at Ohio State.
Yeah.
But Ohio State ended up winning the national championship. But
Right.
yeah, but yeah. So I mean, it's cool. I know it sucks for you guys. This is the only part that's great for me is because you got to wake up at 9 to see those games.
Yeah.
By noon I'm like, just give it to me. I need it.
Yeah. Being on the West Coast has a little bit of those drawbacks. I mean, it's great for college Sunday football because it's like, look, I got an 8 o'clock game. It's at 5:30. Great. I'll watch the game, then do some work, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I see you guys on the podcast, and I'm like, God, I'm so tired. And you guys are like, oh, I'm ready to
Yeah.
go. All right, but I'll move on to the next game.
I mean, the biggest probably game of the year. I mean, between Clemson and Miami. I mean, both teams going into this both have really good offenses. I think it's going to be that high scoring game. I
Yeah,
think it's just what's the over under at right now, isn't it? What
was
is
it
the over?
69.5 or no, that was the Alabama game here.
Yeah, that was Bama Ole Miss. I think it's going to be way over. I think this could potentially be like a 80-point, 90-point game. I just think it's going to be that high scoring, and I think Miami will be able to score a lot and hold with them. But again, it's the same conversation with Florida. I think Clemson's offense is just going to be too much for De'Aaron King and that Miami team. But if they come out of this upset, I think they really push for them being a top team this year.
And
They have the weapons to do it. It's just going to all come down to defense. Whose defense makes the bigger stops? Does the turnover chain overcome the Tiger? It's going to come down to it.
Yeah, and I mean,
I think they'd have a better chance if it was in Miami. Being in Death Valley, and having Clemson have some of their fans is just going to be. I think Miami's going to go and give a good fight, but I don't think they're going to pull out a win.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ACC obviously is a one-bid league, and it'll probably be a one-loss team.
Mm-hmm.
If it's Clemson, they'll put them in. But if another team has one loss and has beaten Clemson, I think they'll put Clemson in just because it's Clemson. But I mean, yeah, it's I'm kind of happy the ACC is not that bad this year. I mean, I'm a big basketball fan too, and I watch ACC basketball. I love North Carolina, so. But yeah, Mac Brown's done a good job. He's gotten some good recruits, especially down south down there. I mean, it's not really that south, but you're not venturing into Alabama and Georgia. And so, yeah, I'll move on. The rest of these games we can all kind of lump together, just talk about. I think the last big one we have is 14, Tennessee at Georgia. What's with Georgia getting all these home games versus teams? It's crazy. I mean, they're always between.
It is crazy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they're. It seems like they've always had a home. I don't think they have. They had an away game this year. Was it just at? I don't think they did.
You can look it up if you want. I don't know if they did, but I mean, they're two big games so far. Been between the hedges. But like we said, I think it's time to we take Georgia seriously, and I think they shut down Tennessee. I mean, their defense is so good, and but yeah, I just don't think they'll be.
I think that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I think Georgia's defense is really going to show out here against Tennessee, and I think they're going to hold Tennessee to a good amount of points, and Georgia's offense is just going to run all over people like they do always.
Yeah, I mean, the over-under for this game is 43, and when I did my article on the preview, I would take the under, and I'm going to take the under just because I would take the
under too. I just don't see. I see Georgia eating a lot of the clock up with their run game, and that defense really stepping up and being like, "You're not scoring on us."
Yeah,
I think the. So go ahead. Sorry.
I would say I can't see Tennessee scoring more than 10 points on. It's hard for me to see that. But all right, and then these last two games I got here, obviously Alabama at Ole Miss, high scoring affair. Anything to add with that one? No.
No, I just think it's going to be an offensive shootout. I think a lot of these games this week are going to turn into an offensive shootout. I mean, we were wrong last week with one of the games, but I think this week is really going to show that offenses over these defenses this year, except for Georgia.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. There you start comparing. Georgia fans are going to start comparing to the '85 Bears and crap.
Oh,
But
jeez. That will be the day.
yeah, and then the last one I had on here, really just to so Notre Dame's obviously had COVID and they had to reschedule last week, so they're back on the field this week, and they host Florida State. And only thing I have to say is Florida State is like so bad, like
They're
they
really
are
bad. They are
so bad.
terrible. They are terrible this year. This is a rebuilding year for them. They need to take a step back and just kind of take the rest of their games and be like, okay, let's start some of these younger players.
Exactly. I mean, I think last week they ended up playing true freshmen the entire game. But I mean, yeah, Florida State's just like I don't even know what happened. They are so bad.
They are. Their defense was supposed to be decent this year, and it just didn't come through. It just fell apart.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, it's a good slate of games, and they're actually all kind of spread out. Like you have your 2 noon, Red River and Virginia Tech, North Carolina, 3:30 Georgia. And then obviously late night, you got the big one in Death Valley, number 2. All right, and then so I'm gonna get into this. I'll go over it real quick, and I'll give you mine. But we're gonna do a best bets segment. Probably only on Fridays. Probably won't. There's no reason to do it because there's no game. Actually, the MAC does play on Wednesdays and Tuesdays. So you know what? I'll give a best bet on Tuesday for a MAC team. But I'll just read them off to you. Tell me what you think. So this week I have Bama Ole Miss over under 69.5. I'm going to take the over. I just think that game almost hits triple digits to me.
Yeah.
And then I got the under. Like I said, was 43 in the Georgia-Tennessee game. Life's too short to bet the under, but there's just no way that Tennessee is going to score more than, like I said, 10 points. So, and then the favorite that I like, and we just talked about, is Florida State. Florida State at Notre Dame. Florida State's like the worst team in the world, and I would be. These are one of those I could be completely wrong about and ends up being close. But I just don't. From what I've seen, Florida State, I just don't see it, and I think Notre Dame coming off a week off, they easily cover. And then an underdog. I have 2 underdogs this week. So Arkansas maybe is a decent football team. They beat Mississippi State last week. So I mean that was a big loss for Mississippi State coming off their win over LSU. But I think they'll stick it close. I just don't think Auburn's that good. They'll play close with Auburn, and if you take Arkansas plus 13.5, I think could be good there. I'm a bonus underdog. It's in the Miami-Clemson game. Clemson's favored by 14, but I think Miami stays within the number, and they probably won't win, but they'll cover. So, any thoughts on that?
I think you're right. I mean, Auburn. I was gonna say. I mean, after Auburn got dominated by Georgia last week, I think they're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder. But I mean, Arkansas beat Mississippi State, who we were talking about last week, being in conversation with, being ranked this year. And I think they're going to come out and use that momentum to kind of bully Auburn around, like Auburn was bullied last week.
Yeah, every year it just seems like Auburn either gets incredibly lucky, like the one year, the kick 6 and the miracle of Jordan Hare.
Oh, yeah.
Or they just aren't, or just they're in the middle of. I mean, Gus Malzahn, he's got to be on his last legs there. I mean, he's been there.
He's been there forever. Can't even name another coach that was there.
And it's coming to the point now that he's so far away from the last time they won. They got the championship with Nick Marshall on that team, but he also won with Cam Newton. So he can't rest on his laurels there anymore. I mean, Cam's a 30-year-old NFL player now, so you can't rest your laurels on that. And then going forward, we're going to have like a random favorite player that each of us will guess. I'll just give you mine this week just because it's awesome. I just figured this out. One of my favorite players play for North Carolina in football. You'll know him. Ryan Switzer.
Yeah, Switzer.
The little white kid who returns all the
white kid. I was thinking about having him this week as my favorite player. But I had to go with someone else who you'll probably know who it is. Won the Ronnie Lott Trophy in 2016. Was number 1 in the Big Ten for punt return yards per return at 14.8. Came 5th in the Heisman voting as a defensive player. It's got to be Jabril Peppers out of Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you said fifth in Heisman voting, I knew it was Peppers.
Yeah, I mean that kid was getting comparisons from Denard Robinson coming out of Michigan. He's been like a decent safety he was a decent safety for Cleveland, and now he's with the Giants, I believe, correct? And he's been, kind of their new safety there. I just love that kid coming out of college. He was always so great. I have a Jabril Peppers Michigan jersey, and he's I think was a great player coming out of high school. And no matter what he does in the pros, I think will always be one of those great players coming out of college.
Yeah, I liked him when he played for the Browns, except, I mean, the defensive coordinator would be – you'd never try to see the Browns back then, but when they went either 2 years ago or 3 years ago when they went without a win, Peppers would play one safety high, and he'd just play 30 yards away from the ball. I had no idea what they're doing. I like Peppers a lot, but the big news is my favorite player, Ryan Switzer, just got signed to the Browns practice squad.
Yeah, let's go.
Because huge. They were having trouble. Like Donovan Peoples-Jones from Michigan, has kind of been doing it, but they kind of wanted a specialist, so I guess they brought him in, and I'm pumped. I put one of my I do the dog pound report for the Brown stuff. I put highlight video Switzer because I was so excited.
No. Do you want me to start with my next segment we have up is the trivia? Do you want me to start with mine? I just have 3 quick questions. You'll probably know most of them. And I do have a Red River rivalry one as well.
All right, yeah. Like I said, we won't really keep track of this one, but we need to get Hans into shape. All right, he needs to come on.
Yeah, we gotta hold Hans accountable this week.
Yeah.
So my first question is, I kind of did like a multiple choice format except for the last one. Which team has the highest winning percentage in all of the FBS? Is it Notre Dame, Boise State, Ohio State, or Michigan?
It's Boise State.
Nope, Michigan. Michigan has a 73
all time.
Yeah, all time.
Oh, okay. You gotta say that, bro. All right. Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
No, you're good. Because I do know that Boise State in 2011 they had the highest winning percentage by far. But yeah, no, I feel that. All right, go ahead. Okay. Let's hear the next one. I got that one wrong. Come on, Justin, you're better than this.
Which team has won the most overall conference championship? Is it Ohio State, Nebraska, USC, or Oklahoma? All time.
Nebraska.
Yep, that's correct.
All right, yeah. I was either going to Nebraska or Oklahoma because USC never used to be good. And
no.
Yeah, but I mean, I was alive, but barely. I was like 5. My dad still tells me that he went to Nebraska and played safety. I'm like, John, I'm 28 years old now. Joke's a little old. Joke's a little fucking old.
My last one, the Red River rivalry was first played in 1900. Who won and what was the score of that first game?
1900. All right. 7-6.
This is kind of a hard one. I got to give you a hard one here.
7-6. Oklahoma or Texas?
No, Texas won by a score of 28-2.
How'd they give up? That's tough. That's a good one.
I had to give you a hard one, man. You always say you're always good on college football. So let me hear yours.
This isn't one of my trivia questions, but you doing that made me think of this. What's the only number you can't score in football?
The only number you can't score?
Like you said, 2 points is a safety, 3 is a field goal.
Right.
What's the only number, like in all numbers that you can't reach? 5.
Oh,
4.
You can't reach.
Yeah, not even you can't reach. It just can't.
I'm gonna hate you for that.
Yeah, you're gonna hate yourself when I tell you this.
100? I don't know. That's tough.
1.
1?
Yes. You cannot score 1 point in a game.
Yeah. I was like, it's either 1 or 100, and I'm thinking high score. I'm thinking yeah, I thought I took it as okay, you kick a field goal, that's a point. So I took it as that.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, my
That's a good
dad.
one. That was a good question though. That was a good one.
Yeah, I'll get into mine. They're pretty tough, but okay. Behind Joe
No worries.
Burrow, and Jalen Hurts, and tied with Justin Fields, who was the third highest rated passer last year according to PFF?
Oh, you asked this question in the group chat, didn't you?
Yeah, don't
Oh, I
worry.
remember that. You asked this question. Oh, I said it was like, I thought it was the kid out of Navy, but it wasn't. It was, oh, what was his name? You had said it too. It was that wasn't the kid. No, was it the kid out of Arkansas?
No,
You didn't say it was Arkansas, or did you? Oh crap! What was it? What was it?
it's
What
not
was
Arkansas.
it?
I'll
Okay,
give,
it's not
I'll,
Arkansas.
I'll give you
I
five
don't know. I
seconds.
don't know who it is. I don't know who it is.
Hopefully we will have him on the podcast soon. I'm working with the athletic department. Dustin Crum, the quarterback from Kent State.
Oh yeah.
He
Okay.
went. Yeah. Here I got.
That was in the back of my mind, but I was like, no, I couldn't against it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Number two. Since 2003, the Heisman Trophy has gone mainly to quarterbacks. In 2015, Derrick Henry won the award. Before him, who was the last non-quarterback to win, and what school did he go to?
Well, that's non-quarterback, correct?
Yes, and Derrick Henry won in 2015, but
Right.
before him, between 2003 and 2015, one non-quarterback won.
Wait, 2015 and when?
Uh, I don't know. I think it was 2009. I didn't say the year, but Derrick Henry won 2015, who was the only other non-quarterback winner from 2003 till now.
Till now? Okay, so I was gonna say Charles Woodson, but that was before 2003. Um,
You're gonna beat yourself up.
I probably will. Was it a running back?
Yeah.
Or was it? It was a running back. Oh, who was it? 2003. Oh, Reggie Bush, but he got it
Reggie,
revoked, didn't he?
no, Reggie Bush never won.
I thought no Reggie. Oh, but that was way back in the day.
No, it wasn't back in the day. It would have counted, but he never won one. Or the vacated doesn't count. I don't know, but
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He won it, but they vacated it.
he should have won it that year. He was the best player, but
Well, no, they revoked it because of his there was a scandal behind it.
yeah, I remember. He like
You
sold it or
said
something.
okay.
All right,
It's a running back. I'm just trying to go through the list. We're running out of time here, so I'm probably gonna beat myself over it. But who was it?
Mark Ingram, running back from Alabama.
Oh, that's right. Right, he was. Oh, that was tough. Yeah, I'm gonna beat myself over that one.
All right, last one. All right, this one has a little bit to do with the Heisman as well. In 2013, Northern Illinois quarterback Jordan Lynch finished third in the Heisman voting. That's the highest a MAC player has ever finished. Before Lynch, who had the highest finish for the Heisman from the MAC, what school did he attend, and how high did he finish?
I don't know. I'm not a big MAC fan, so I could not.
They're not a MAC. They're not a MAC team anymore.
No, I don't know who it is.
Randy Moss at Marshall. Yeah, and he finished fourth. All right, so
I was gonna go with like Big Ben.
you should have. I would have made some inappropriate jokes.
All right.
You should know too. You looked at Miami, so
yeah, no. Well, that's why I was gonna say him.
But, all right. Yeah. Well, that's it for the first episode of the Fourth and Long podcast. Jake, just stick around. We'll talk about some things, and then hopefully next Tuesday we'll have your guy on, interview him, and it'll be really cool to get like an insider's perspective of. I mean, is he open to like what testing is like and everything like that?
Yeah. I'm still talking with him a little bit, but he's open to pretty much talking about everything. I mean, I'm not trying to get him in trouble or anything, but he's open to talking about what the experience has been like.
All right, cool.
and kind of give us a player's perspective, because we always get this outside point of view, but it's kind of nice to have this inside point of view of what it's like
Absolutely.
from a player's perspective, because they're usually told, oh, don't say anything to reporters or anything, but he's talked with some of his coaches and is open to talking with us.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, if we have to, we can like on the old gangland shows, we can like show his confession with it darked out and like fuzzy face.
With a voiceover and everything.
And then
With
then
a
our, then
voiceover.
our then our fans will just be like, "That's just Hans. Hans just never comes. It's just him." But all right, man, that'll do it for the Fourth and Long podcast, episode 1. I think we did a good job, Jake. And like I
Yeah,
said, stick around. We'll talk a little bit. But we're gonna
yeah,
have the broadcast, and hopefully everyone have a great weekend and a great weekend in college football. And we will talk to you Tuesday night at 10 o'clock, I believe.
yeah.
So everyone have a good weekend.
Yep.
Jake, have a
Thank
good
you all for
weekend, man.
coming in, tuning in for our podcast. We really appreciate it. Stick around. We're some of us aren't always, me and Hans aren't always the most intelligent on college football,
No,
but
no, no, no.
we're
You
here for
guys,
good
you
times,
guys
good
are
laugh.
You guys are more than knowledgeable. It's great. It's just that you fucking live on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's always a problem with time issues. And Hans actually has a job during this time, so it's like we all got to work around Hans. Come on, Hans.
Yeah, we're not talking about Hans. It's he who must not be named. All right, everybody.
Okay.
Everybody
All
have a
right.
good
Thanks,
weekend.
everybody. Have a good one.